sound of Suffolk.
Daytimes.
BBC Radio Suffolk.
I'm Johnny Wright, sitting in for Sarah Lilly, 24 minutes to 12. And in June 1994, an RAF Chinook crashed on the Mull of Kintyre, killing all 29 people on board. It had been flying from RAF Aldergrove in Northern Ireland to a conference at Fort George in Scotland. Ever since, the families of those who died have been campaigning to find out the truth behind the crash. A BBC documentary revealed the Ministry of Defence files on the incident had been sealed for over 100 years. Now more than 25,000 people have signed a petition demanding answers. Major Chris Doherty was one of those killed. 29 killed. His 95-year-old father, John, lives in Suffolk and says he's thankful for the work the campaigners are doing.
I'm extremely grateful to Nicola, my daughter, for all the work that she's doing in order to bring justice for all the victims of the Chinook disaster. I think it's quite disgusting that it has been allowed to fester for as long as it has without getting to the bottom of things.
Sarah Lilly spoke to Major Doherty's sister, Nicola Rawcliffe, who lives near Diss and is part of the Chinook Justice campaign, who explained how she heard the news.
I'd been away with my husband, and on arrival home early that evening, there was a birthday card from my brother Chris. And we didn't listen to any news that evening. The next thing I knew was stones being thrown up at our bedroom window, early hours of June the 3rd, because unbeknown to me, Chris had appointed me his next of kin, should my parents be out of the country. So I had the harrowing task of not only receiving the devastating news delivered to me by this army officer at sort of 2 o'clock on the 3rd of June, 2 in the morning, but I then also had to phone my parents in the south of France to tell them their eldest son had been killed in a Chinook helicopter crash.
Wow.
And so that was, as I say, harrowing and incredibly hard.
I can only imagine that must have been one of the toughest things you've ever had to do.
Absolutely. And I think it was the fact that, having been away for a few days and returning, and because my birthday had been sort of a few days earlier, to have opened a card from Chris and sort of put that up. And then, just to get that news. And being that early in the morning as well.
It sounds like it must have been shocking. It must have been a surreal moment.
Absolutely, because it was that news, well, do I phone my parents straight away? It's going to be in the middle of their night. But of course, yes, I had to. And then they had the case of sort of packing up and travelling the 14 hours home, which they would normally have done with a stop.
It just sounds like the most harrowing experience. Can you tell me a bit about your brother? What was he like? Chris
was quite a gregarious chap, very warm personality. He had an infectious smile and a sort of a contagious laugh, which always managed to, as I say, an infectious smile, make everybody smile along with him. He was very approachable and had a talent of being able to get on with all he met, which then, of course, with the profession he was in, it made him a very popular but professional army officer. So, yes, he was great fun to be with, but obviously he had his serious side when he needed to.
Yeah, and heartbreakingly, he was due to be married, wasn't he, before the crash?
Gosh, yes, he was. The crash was in June, and he was due to be married to Louise in September.
It is absolutely heartbreaking. When did you begin to think that you weren't being told all the facts around the crash?
I think the fact that the government MOD were very, very quick in wanting to blame the pilots made us, none of the families believed that the pilots were in any way to blame. And I think the speed with which they blamed the pilots made us think there is something being covered up here.
The Prime Minister's refused a request for a public inquiry despite the 25,000 signatures on the petition. How do you feel about that?
We just really can't believe that, with that strength of feeling, that he talks about transparency, but he's just sort of slammed the door in our face. We feel that, unfortunately, he's sort of hiding behind the MOD, because it's as though the MOD have sort of managed to pull the wool over the eyes of previous defence ministers. And the Prime Minister, we just want him to stand up and get the truth. We just want somebody to tell us why the helicopter left the ground, because we have the evidence to show that it was unairworthy.
The MOD will say that they have had inquiries. What do you say to that?
Documents are not sealed away for 100 years unless there is something to hide. And the other inquiries that have been had in the past didn't have all of the evidence that we have now. They didn't look into the circumstances leading up to and surrounding the crash. And nobody has been able to answer the question why our loved ones were put on board an unairworthy Chinook helicopter.
Why is it so vital to you to see these documents from the MOD released? How would it help?
It would help because grief is hard enough when you've lost somebody and you have to go through that process of accepting they're no longer there is one thing, but not to know the reason why. The fact that the MOD's most experienced test pilots were prohibited from flying this helicopter, and yet 29 people boarded it. There is a reason. Somebody somewhere is hiding something. And so we need to have somebody tell us the truth for us to understand why our loved ones boarded that helicopter.
Do the other families campaigning, do they all feel as strongly as you?
Yes, they do. We've got 24 families out of the 29 that are, we're all together. And, there were 47 children are involved who lost their fathers out of those 24 families. And it's those children that are now, and there were a couple that weren't born at the time. And so it's those young ones that are really helping to drive it now, because they're saying, well, gosh, if these documents are sealed for 100 years, I'm not going to see them. My children probably won't see them. So, yes, we are all very much of the same passion, and we just want to get to the truth. Have you
ever brought yourself to kind of visit the site of the crash?
Yes, we have. I wasn't able to go to the ceremonies that took place in 1994 because I was pregnant with my first child, Jonty. But we managed to go when he was about 6-7 months old. We went up there and took him with us and visited the site then, and have been up a second time as well for a holiday, because it's very important for us to be able to see the last resting place of Chris.
And so many years have passed. I guess it doesn't get easier, it just gets different. But would answers, you feel that would help with your grief?
Most definitely.
Even
yes,
if those answers aren't necessarily the ones that you hope for or want?
It's truth that we want. We just need to know sort of who gave the order, why they were placed on an aircraft that everybody knew was not airworthy. And in fact, my father's in his 96th year, and he is desperately behind everything that we are doing. And in his own words, has sort of said, we've got to get to the bottom of it. And so he has been waiting all this time to understand why he lost his eldest son.
And I can hear, just from the short conversation we've had, I can tell that, Chris was a very special person, a very special brother and son, and fiance. And you're not going to give up fighting for your brother, are you?
No, we're not. Most definitely not. We need that answer. And if he was here, he would say, just keep going. You've got to keep going until you find that answer, get that truth.
Sarah Lilly speaking to Nicola Rawcliffe, whose brother, Major Chris Doherty, died in the Chinook crash. The two-part BBC documentary will air on Sunday on BBC Two at 9 p.m, with the second part the following Sunday. The programme will also be available on BBC iPlayer.